This was probably our sixth or eighth trip to St. George's Caye Resort. We've been here a number of times before and enjoyed it. It's not a fancy place, but it's a well-run little Belize Island resort, and it's easy to get to from our place in Arizona. Last trip here in 2021 it wasn't exactly a great one, but we opted to try it again this year. When we got there, we found out that the ocean was being ripped apart by a lot of extremely strong winds, not like Hurricane Lisa when it came ashore back in early November, but strong enough that we could not fish the ocean side. So we took out their usable kayaks and paddled the lagoon behind it. Right now I'm playing a little good sized little mutton snapper, but normally what we do when we go onto the lagoon, there's another small island just behind the main resort island called Little St. George's Caye. We'll usually hop out on it. It has a couple of beaches that are wadeable, which is unusual for Belize. Most of the shoreline in Belize is not wadeable. It's the sand's way too chunky and bunky. But this place usually was good fishing. But what we found out when we got there is that the island had been sold, and they've installed a caretaker with a couple of kind of mean dogs. So we stuck to the ocean side. That's actually Little St. George in the background. You can see I have another fish on now. I think this one's a nice little bone. So we ended up trolling and or casting to and from the deeper areas around Little St. George, but couldn't get out on the island to do the kind of shoreside casting that we like to do. The bonefish were few and far between out here too. It's kind of a tough place to fish or trying to drag a small fly along the bottom. We want to stay on the bottom and do it fairly slowly. If you don't do that, the local barracuda are ravenous and they'll take any of these flies off in a second. So anyway, we're playing this fish, and there's the other side of the end of the island. A couple of these bones are fairly decent sized, not really large, but all these Belizean bones tend to run between 1 and 3 pounds. Later on in this little show, you'll see one that's probably 4 or maybe a little more. But we did catch a few fish out doing this. Here's, by the way, that's one of the dogs that was one of the caretakers of the island. He likes to swim in the salt water, and we left him alone. But what happened on the third day, the winds calmed down enough, and I actually found a couple of new places to throw small bonefish flies, the kind that we use in Alphonse Island. And the fishing out here was pretty darn good. That's a good fish. That's probably a good 4 pounds. You can't really fish the weed beds here. They're just too darn tough, and I don't like weed guards on my flies. What you're looking at there, though, is a patch of about 100 square or 100-foot diameter patch of sand. It's got some weeds in it, but I found bonefish here every day. We're dragging the flies along the bottom using a little sink tip line, which normally we wouldn't have to do, but there's some other places we fished where we had to get down 10 or 12 feet. So anyway, there were a bunch of bones here. I did a little session in the morning, a little session in the afternoon, and ended up catching a handful both times. So you can't ask for much better fishing than that. Anyway, this is the deeper section out by that dock out there. The water's probably 10 to 15 foot deep. So we had to go a little deeper and use a little heavier weight on the fly. But it was halfway good fishing, and I'd definitely come back and do the same thing again. Pretty much decent. The tarpon fishing was not great. I hooked 2 or 3 tarpon every single night after dark on the dock after dinner. Didn't land a one. Had one jump 4 times that eventually wrapped himself around a piling, and I lost him that way. But I think that one would have been a release. These aren't great big fish, but they were probably 20 to 40 pounds at most. So this is just a few clips we had. I lost most of the clips I had of the tarpon fishing, so you won't get to see any of those guys. So this is close to the end of what I can put together for a little story about the trip this time. That's maybe the last bonefish we're going to see. maybe one more, but there were plenty of them. And these bones out in the ocean side were probably 2 to 4 pounds rather than the 1 to 3 pounds that we ran into back in the lagoon itself. So we had fun that way, and something I would definitely be worth doing again. Uh, the The picture you're seeing here is of the mangrove tree out in front of the restaurant. It's the biggest mangrove I've ever seen in my life. It looks like a tabletop. They've trimmed it both on the top and the bottom. The top so you can see out from the restaurant, and the bottom so they can hang some hammocks off it. Uh, Here's a little shot of the interior of the restaurant. It was, at least we got separate tables this time. We liked that a lot. And there's a little lunch set up. The lunches were good, the breakfast were good, the dinner was so-so.